Hello and welcome to TimesXP. I am Driti Atri and here are the biggest stories that are making headlines across the globe today. So let's start with it. Putin sent a general to Venezuela while Ukraine claims a top Russian general is secretly operating inside Venezuela. He is allegedly training the troops and building a covert task force. In fact, if this is true, then Russia just moved into America's backyard. Equator Task Force exposed. Kyiv says that Russia has deployed a special mission team in Venezuela. Over 120 soldiers are reportedly stationed there. Their objective? Well, it is to prepare Venezuela for the conflict with the US. Maduro turns to Moscow with tensions rising with Washington. Maduro is seeking Russia's protection. Russian advisors, their drones, their trainers, they are increasing in numbers. Now here, Caracas is becoming Russia's newest strategic beachhead. United States watches Latin America nervously. Well, American intelligence is monitoring the Russian-Venezuelan buildup. Here, Washington sees this as a provocative shift in the regional balance, but officials fear that it may trigger a future proxy war. Qatar warns Israel, stop now. Qatar says that Israeli airstrikes are pushing the Gaza truce towards collapse. Mediators say that they cannot hold the deal together any longer. Another strike may end the ceasefire instantly. Gaza sees new airstrikes. While hospitals reported fresh casualties after midnight raids, the explosion triggered panic across the northern Gaza. Qatar says that these violations threaten the weeks of negotiation. Doha loses patience. Qatar openly accuses Israel of undermining the truce here. The tone was sharper than anything that we have ever heard in months. Diplomats, they warn that the agreement is hanging by a thread. Middle East on high alert. If the ceasefire collapses, then Lebanon to Red Sea, everything could reignite. In fact, regional militia are watching closely for any excuse to respond. World leaders fear a wider war is going to erupt within hours. Russian spy ship enters the UK water. Well, Yanta, Russia's notorious spy ship, slipped near Scotland. British forces say that it behaved aggressively and deliberately, while tension spiked as it moved closer to critical undersea cables. RAF pilots targeted by the laser. British pilots reported laser beams coming from Russian vessel. Here officials say that it could have blinded or maybe injured the crew member, while London condemns the act as dangerous and provocative. The UK Navy activates tracking. Royal Navy ships shadowed Yanta's moment hour by hour. Here, patrol aircraft circle the area despite the laser threat. In the end, NATO intelligence centers, they are already alerted after that. What is Russia searching for here? Here, experts say that the ship maps Western communication cable. Cutting those cables could cripple the internet and military system. London fears that Russia is preparing for a future sabotage. Russia mocks the UK. That's right, Kremlin dismissed British concern as Western hysteria. Here officials claim that this spy ship is just a search ship, but here NATO says that its equipment proves otherwise. West pushes new Iran resolution. The US and Europe demanded Iran release nuclear site data. Right? Those facilities were attacked earlier this year. Tehran but refuses to share anything until security is guaranteed. Iran warns of consequences here. Iran's envoy threatened action after the IAEA vote. Diplomats say that Tehran is preparing for a hard response. The nuclear standoff is entering a dangerous new phase. Russia and China defend Iran. Both powers rejected the Western resolution proudly and openly. In fact, 7 nations stood against the US-European Union push. The vote exposed deep geopolitical division. The uranium alarms 440.9 kilogram. Iran now holds 440.9 kilogram of 60% of enriched uranium. Let me tell you, that's not just one technical step below weapons grade. Now here, nuclear experts are increasingly anxious. IAEA fears losing the control here. Iran may block more cameras and inspectors in near future. Now here, officials warn that visibility into Iran's program is shrinking. The world could soon face a blind nuclear crisis. Zoran Mamdani sends warning to Donald Trump. New York City's mayor, Mr. Zoran Mamdani, publicly warned Trump. He said that I won't accept pressure or intimidation. Now, this particular statement has shocked the Washington before their meeting. White House scrambles. Well, Trump advisors quickly revised the briefing note here. The tension began even before Mamdani arrived in the White House. Well, insiders expect a heated face-off now. A high-stakes showdown begins. Zoran Mamdani says that he won't bend on immigration or city autonomy. He claims that he answers only to New Yorkers. Both political camps are bracing for confrontation. Puerto Rico Naval Base reactivated. The old Roosevelt Road base all of a sudden came alive. Beat new antennas, new radars, and personnel, everything was spotted moving in. In fact, satellite images confirm a major US buildup. United States sent message to Venezuela. The quiet reactivation is seen as a warning to Maduro. Here, analysts say that it positions US forces closer to Caracas. Also, the timing, well, it's not coincidence here. Caribbean on high alert. Regional governments were caught completely off guard. No public announcements ever made by Washington here. In fact, the secrecy has fueled the speculation of the coming crisis. Turkey blocks the US plan. Washington is now sidelining Turkey in Gaza's post-war strategy. Ankara support for Hamas triggered massive speculations here. In fact, US officials say that Turkey cannot be trusted in the process. IMEEC sparks Turkish anger. The India, Middle East, Europe corridor bypasses Turkey entirely. Here, Ankara sees it as a blow to its regional influence. It is now pushing rival trade routes to regain leverage. United States fear dependency on Erdogan. That's right. Washington refuses to rely on Turkey for critical supply chain. Past disputes over NATO decision still haunt the alliance. Now here, officials want alternative that bypass Ankara. S-400 and F-35 crisis continue. Turkey's purchase of Russia's S-400 still blocks F-35 access. Well, the US won't risk the stealth secrets being compromised here, and this dispute remains a major NATO fracture. Eastern Mediterranean tensions rise. Well, Turkey challenges maritime border with Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. Oil exploration zones are frequently disrupted, and in the meantime, Washington says that this instability threatens the IMEEC's future. A 2026-27 flashpoint looms, ladies and gentlemen. Experts warn big decisions on pipelines and trade routes are coming. Turkey wants dominance and US wants diversification. Well, the regional power clashes seems inevitable. And with that, that's a wrap-up of our 30 news bulletins from around the globe, from Gaza to Israel, from the United States to Turkey. The world is changing, and so is geopolitics, and TimesXP is here to give you all the latest updates that matters the most. I'm Driti Atri. See you next time.